Hello, welcome to Module 6, Part B. And in this module, we're going to be talking about something that we may have been talking about in your sessions, but specifically or broadly, this session is about beliefs or agreements and truths. And what happens when you recognize that you are holding a belief about something and that you actually have control over changing that belief and what that can mean in your life um, in one particular place, and that is when we talk about our relationships with others or a story that we have about our relationship with others. So we want to talk first of all about beliefs and truths, just sort of generally, so that you can know where I'm coming from. So beliefs are super important. They do define how we go about our life. They shape and impact our choices, our mindset, and even our biology. So this is referring to something what I was talking about in the last module, where when we are really in a stuck place, whether we're holding stories about resentment or unfinished business, it can actually start to affect how we are in the body, causing things to not flow as freely, and therefore bringing on symptoms, and symptoms that are sometimes diagnosed into conditions. Beliefs can be limiting, or they can be very broad. So that when I say limiting, I mean like a self-limiting belief that's keeping you small, that's keeping you stuck, that believes that there is no other way to look at a situation. So the good news about beliefs, and there's actually lots of good news, but one of them is that they are malleable, they are changeable, and this is news that we can use for sure, because we can use it to change the way we're interacting with what happens to us, with what comes into our experience. So truth, on the other hand, is, well, this can be defined both subjectively for the individual, but we can also think about truth in a much broader way. So you may have a truth as in something that is true for you, and some people would call that a belief. But if it's something that is true for you and it is unmovable, then that's fine. But the idea about truth is that it's not something that's so easily malleable. But do take a look at what you consider to be a truth for you, and check in that it's not a belief that might be keeping you in a certain spot. I'll give you a hint. If you have stories like she always, or I always, or I can't, that might be a belief and not a truth. But there's also a way broader way of looking at truth. These are things that are true no matter what. That things are always changing, that nothing is going to remain the same. Things are always in flux, that the world is round. These are big, broad truths that aren't really beliefs. And even though some of our things that we judge to be truths are maybe even based on science or fact. Okay, take a deep breath. And exhale. And what I want to do in this short little segment is look at our beliefs about conflict, or beliefs about a relationship or relationships, or how we typically or routinely see ourselves when we're interacting with others. So there is an overlay. There is a place, and I would say a limiting belief about where many of us go. This is a place that many of us go when it comes to conflict or relationships. And that is that we believe that in a situation or in a relationship that's ongoing, or in a past relationship that happened 20, 30 years ago, 5 years ago, last week, that we have roles that are fixed and that they can't be changed. So I want to show you this diagram. This is called the triangle, or I've heard it referred to as the dreaded drama triangle. Because when we think that we must play one of these roles in an interaction, it's pretty likely that drama or a feeling of stuckness, feelings of resentment or guilt or shame, or these feelings that we've talked about that we're not making bad or wrong, but when we're stuck on this triangle, we start to forget that we can move through our anger so that it doesn't become resentment. We might forget that we can forgive ourselves or forgive another, even if that other person isn't aware of that forgiveness or even accepts it, acknowledges it. So take a deep breath and take a look at this and think about a time where something did not go the way that you were expected, or somebody let you down, or a situation let you down. You had your sights on a certain thing happening and another thing happened instead, and you felt very let down. So what I've just asked you to remember is a situation from the point of view as a victim. Most of us, if we're in the role of villain, we don't realize it, or we don't, well, sometimes we do recognize it, but we don't always admit it. And some of us may be in a place of being a hero, the fixer, the one who saves the day. And sometimes, as we are different places on this, we may see someone who thinks that they're being a hero, we may see that person as a villain, or vice versa. You may think that you're being a hero in a situation, but you may be regarded as the bad guy. So take a deep breath and consider this triangle and how it plays in your relationships. Sometimes when a person feels like the victim, the person who's the villain is also the hero. So take a deep breath. So for villain, I mean someone who is a blamer, who is an antagonist or a rebel in a situation, a skeptic, someone who's always throwing a wrench into things. For someone who's a victim, this is the martyr. This is the scapegoat in a situation. This is the placater. This is the person who is the punching bag, or lets themselves be the punching bag. The hero is one who sees himself as the savior of a situation, as the fixer, as the cheerleader, keep everybody going. They see themselves, or they want to be seen as the saint, or maybe other people see them as the saint. They can also be a distractor from things that need attention, sort of smoothing over the rough places that do need attention. And they may be seen as the star, or it may be regarded that they want to be seen as the star. So to go further in these roles, just so you can settle into what this triangle is about, and I can tell you where we're going, is that if you choose a role, you are stuck in a loop that can be difficult to break out until you become very aware and very present that you don't actually have to be on the triangle. But the first step is knowing that you're on the triangle at all, that you're playing a role, or that somebody else is playing a role, or maybe you both are, or the number of people who are in it are playing roles. So the victim is someone who is whining, who has a poor me mentality. They stay in getting confused, or they stay in overwhelm, feel kind of spaced out, and sort of use that as a place to allow their power to be taken away from them. A story of not being adequate and therefore not able to take action. And like I mentioned before, the villain is someone who's blaming and persecuting, making somebody else wrong, whether they are making themselves right or it's just important to make someone else wrong. And this doesn't necessarily mean that they think that they're right, but they just want to show that where things are not right in their mind, and they want other people to jump on that bandwagon. The villain has a tone of accusing and judging. You have a tone of controlling a situation. Actually, the hero can have that too. They dismiss other people's feelings as not important. The hero can be the rescuer, see themselves as the rescuer, excusing other people's behavior that may need to have some healthy boundaries around it in order to just keep it going. They may even have some passive aggressiveness in them in the way that they interact with others, because they want to look like the good guy even though they have some issues, and so they may have a passive aggressive way of dealing with a situation. They want to be the ones to figure it out, and since they tend to believe that they are the ones to do this, they might have a hard time seeing another person's point of view. They are the person that jumps in to help even when not asked. Or they may be the person who, when somebody is just looking for an ear, just looking for a place to vent, that they feel they need to come in and fix it. It's very easy as parents to feel like the hero role. We have to come in and save our children. The hero doesn't delegate because they don't want to impose, or perhaps they also have this idea where they need to control the situation in order to have it work the way that they would like. Take a deep breath. And so, considering that you don't have to be on the triangle, what would it mean if in a relationship that you have or an interaction that you have that you are not in the triangle? You're not on the triangle because the triangle is limiting. When you step off the triangle, you can become empowered. When you start to understand that these roles may not even be real. They may be things that you and other people that you interact with have just invented. What if people didn't play these roles in your interactions? And of course, the only person that you can control is yourself. And I promise you that when even one person changes in this dynamic, it changes the whole dynamic. So think of a time where you recognize that someone was playing that role, or you went into a story about a role that you were supposed to play and you stopped yourself, or you didn't choose a role in the first place. Take a deep breath. It may be easier to think of a time where this happened with someone that you don't really know well. It's harder to see until you start really working on this when you're in a relationship with someone that you're close to or spend a lot of time with. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. Where was a time where you didn't choose a role? Take a deep breath. You can also imagine an interchange that you're frequently involved with, or one that you play over in your mind again and again, and just imagine what it would be like if you weren't subconsciously or actively identifying as the hero or the victim or the villain. And then continue on to part C when you're ready.